برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. أما بعد، قال الله تعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا. Respected friends in Islam, before we actually delve into the tafsir of Surah Nasr, I think more importantly what we need to understand is the episodes that came before the actual revelation of Surah Nasr itself. So today, you know what, we are not going to actually go into the tafsir of Surah Nasr, whereas we actually are going to go into a great portion of the seerah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And when we understand this part of the seerah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we will fully be able to understand and grasp the true meaning of the tafsir of Surah Nasr, which was revealed upon Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we will also be able to understand how the tafsir of Surah Nasr, how the surah of Surah Nasr helped and impacted the life of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam nubuwwah when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was at the age of 40. So when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned 40, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him nubuwwah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we learned in the tafsir of Surah Al-Lahab, instructed Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that go and preach the message of Islam openly alal i'lan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed the verses وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ that go and warn and call your close relatives towards Islam. And this is what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did. And we mentioned in Surah Al-Lahab that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was tortured by the mushrikeen. The Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum were also tortured by the mushrikeen, to such an extent that Hazrat Bilal Habshi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was a slave at the time. Before Hazrat Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he bought Hazrat Bilal Habshi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was a slave. And when he bought Iman, his master, he would torture Hazrat Bilal Habshi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, to such an extent, and I'm sure we've all heard the story, that we know with regards to the scorching heat in Saudi Arabia, 45, 46, 47, 48 degrees. Hazrat Bilal Habshi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu would be told to lie down, he would be forced to lie down upon his back, and they would tell him that re-announce your faith. Re-announce your faith, say that you are not a Muslim anymore. But Hazrat Bilal Habshi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he would say, Ahad, Ahad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one. And look at the fruits of this. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he went for Isra wal Mi'raj, when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he came back, he says that when I was shown heaven, I heard the footsteps of Hazrat Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu in Jannah. I heard the footsteps of Hazrat Bilal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu in Jannah. Now, the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they were all prosecuted. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he lived in Makkatul Mukarramah for approximately 13 years. He gave da'wah towards Islam for 13 years. And today the topic that we need to understand is the da'wah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which led to the conquest and the liberation of Makkatul Mukarramah. Now remember the tafsir of Surah Nasr. This surah, Surah Nasr, is with regards to the liberation and the conquest of Makkatul Mukarramah. That Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he went into Makkah and he liberated and he conquered Makkatul Mukarramah. But for us to, like I said, for us to truly understand the liberation of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, let's understand this part of the seerah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, 13 years, he is preaching Islam. 13 years have passed. And this is a great lesson for those people who are in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those people who are preaching Islam. For example, the ulama. For example, those people who go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever khidmat you do, because in the first 13 years of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, despite all his efforts, in Makkatul Mukarramah, majority of the people had not accepted the da'wah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But yet we see that today there are millions and millions of people who are saying the kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But don't look at this. Look at the first 13 years of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, where majority of the people were against Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Today we are seeing the fruits of the da'wah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But do not forget the 13 years that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he went through so much. So yet a lesson that we get to learn from the seerah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is that never ever give up in the da'wah towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter what da'wah you give, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show you the fruits. Arabic saying it goes, as-sa'yu minna wal itmamu min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That as-sa'yu minna, koshish hamari taraf se hai. That we will try our best and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring whatever we are trying to do to completion. What we have to do is exert the effort and leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it was like we mentioned in Surah Al-Lahab that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whatever opportunity he would get, he would try to call people towards Islam. He would try to call people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Hujjaj would come to perform Hajj from different tribes. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would speak to them, would give them da'wah. And so many of them would take the advice of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam on board. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he had given up with the mushrikeen because they were not only torturing Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they weren't accepting the message of Islam. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would propose to the other tribesmen that give me an opportunity for me to come to your tribe and give and preach the message of Islam. Now the Quraysh, they were very strong, they were powerful, they were dominant. The Quraysh, they were so dominant that the tribesmen, they would say that if the Quraysh were to find out that the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has come to our tribe and we have given the opportunity to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam to preach the message of Islam, then they will wage a war against us. So, O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we are sorry, we cannot do this. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam still carries on. Now, who was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to accept for this great mission of Islam? From the different tribes, from the different Arabs, who was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to accept to take the khidmah of Islam? In Madinatul Munawwara, there were two tribes. One was the Aus and the other was the Khazraj. They were both idol worshippers, and they resided in Madinatul Munawwara with the Yahud, who were the Ahl Kitab, who were given the revelation. And there were many differences, there were many disputes between the Yahud and also the Aus and Khazraj, who were the idol worshippers. Now the Yahud would always say to the Aus and Khazraj that when Nabiyyu Akhiruz Zaman, when the last prophet will come, we are going to side with the last prophet and we are going to make sure that we get rid of you. We are going to take you out of Madinatul Munawwara. Now, why did the Yahud say this? And the Yahud, the reason is the Yahud, they knew who the last prophet was going to be. In the Torah, all the examples of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam were given. But only one thing wasn't mentioned with regards to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And this was the reason why the Yahud, they never bought Iman upon Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They saw everything that was appointed, everything that was written down in the Torah, they saw it on Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They had already said to the Aus and Khazraj that when Nabiyyu Akhiruz Zaman, when the last prophet will come, we are going to bring Iman upon him. So when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam came, why did the Yahud not accept Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Why could they not accept Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam to be the last prophet despite knowing all the alamat? The reason is that in the Torah, everything was mentioned except for one thing, that what family lineage was Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was going to come from. The family lineage of which Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was going to come from was not mentioned in the Torah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he did not come from the Banu Israel. Rather, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he came from the Banu Ismail, which wasn't the family lineage of the Yahud. And this really affected the Yahud. And jealousy overtook them, takabbur overtook them, and they decided that we are not going to accept him, i.e. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to be the last prophet. Why? Because he is not from our family lineage. If the last prophet is going to come, he is only going to come from our family lineage. And this is why the Yahud, the Jews, no matter, we see the Yahud today, they practice the deen so much. You go to different parts of even UK, you go to Stamford Hill, you go to Manchester, in Salford, you see them 1 o'clock in the morning, they are going to their community centers, doing whatever else they are doing, but they are practicing their deen. They are so much on their deen. But one mistake they did out of jealousy, out of takabbur, was that they couldn't accept the fact that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is from Banu Ismail, and this stopped them from accepting that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is Nabiyyu Akhiruz Zaman. So anyways, the Aus and Khazraj, a few people from the Aus and Khazraj went for Hajj. They met with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. After having talked with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave them da'wah, and they accepted Islam. The first year, only approximately 4, 5, 6 of them accepted Islam. They went back to Madinatul Munawwara, and the next year they came back for Hajj once again. And now total 12 people have accepted Islam. They put a proposal before Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam that, O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we want you to send a few Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum with us to Madinatul Munawwara, so that they come to Madinatul Munawwara and they also preach the message of Islam. Now in Madinatul Munawwara, when Mus'ab bin Umair radiyallahu ta'ala anhu and other Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum came to Madinatul Munawwara, now each and every household has the light of nubuwwah in it. In each and every household, they are talking with regards to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They are waiting for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They want to accept the message of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, the third year, when the Aus and Khazraj, they came for Hajj once again. A total of approximately 73 or 75 people came to Makkatul Mukarramah. 2 of them were women and the rest were all men, and they all brought Iman upon Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Look, my dearest friends in Islam, this is 13 years after Nubuwwah. 13 years after Nubuwwah, after toiling, after so much that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did. Now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is seeing the fruits of his da'wah. Now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is seeing all the doors open up before him. Now the Aus and the Khazraj, I will tell you who the Aus and the Khazraj is later on. The Aus and the Khazraj, they say to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam that, come with us back to Madinatul Munawwara. We want you to come to Madinatul Munawwara and preach Islam yourself. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he had become ma'yus. He was despondent from the Quraysh, from the people of Makkatul Mukarramah. He was very, very unhappy with them. He was grieved with them. He was full of sorrow. And I have tried so much, despite all my earnest efforts, no one is bringing Iman. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he decided to migrate from Makkatul Mukarramah to Madinatul Munawwara. Now, one thing that I'm going to go over today is also the hospitality that the Ansar had shown to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the Muhajirin. Dearest friends in Islam, this is such an example of hospitality that we will never ever find in the books of history. When the Muhajirin, they came to Madinatul Munawwara, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the Muhajirin, the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, they had opened the doors, all the doors for them. There was one Muhajir, he was left back. He came a little bit late. Whilst he was coming to Madinatul Munawwara, and I mentioned this in my Eid Bayan too. Whilst he was coming to Madinatul Munawwara, the mushrikeen, they took his luggage, they took his family, they took his kids, they took his wife, they took everything of him. They took his animal that he was riding upon to Madinatul Munawwara, they took everything of him. And he comes to Madinatul Munawwara, and the first person that he sees is Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Once Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was leaving Masjidul Nabawi, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he asks him, he sees him, he recognizes him, and he asks him, what's it up with you? He says that, O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whilst migrating from Makkatul Mukarramah to Madinatul Munawwara, I have lost everything that I had. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says that you have lost nothing. No, you have not lost nothing, you have gained Jannah by migrating from Madinatul Munawwara to Makkatul Mukarramah. Thereafter Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he calls a Ansar. The Aus and the Khazraj, they later on became the Ansar. And the reason the Ansar in the Arabic language means the helpers. The reason why they were called the helpers is because of this. That when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he calls the Ansar and he says that take this muhajir with you and show him your hospitality, look after him. This Ansar, he takes this muhajir and he says to this muhajir that, you know what, I have 2 houses, from whichever house you want, you choose, this will become your house. I have 2 businesses, whichever business you want, you take your share of that business is now yours. Where will we ever find such an example of hospitality? This was the reason the Aus and Khazraj, their name changed into the Ansar. They were called the helpers. The helpers of who? The helpers of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the Muhajirin who had migrated from Makkatul Mukarramah to Madinatul Munawwara. And a great lesson that this is something that we need to do. You know, people, they come for Chanda. Some people, they come to the masjid. They come from different places from abroad. Now where do they go? Where do they eat? Where do they stay? Have we ever asked them? Look, they are also like muhajirs. Obviously not the istilahi, not the actual muhajirin themselves. But we should also ask them that, where are you going to eat? Have you got anything to eat? Where are you going to stay? What are you going to do? This is something this is brotherhood. This is hospitality that we learn from the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, and this is something that we need to bring into our life too. Anyways, the Yahud, they had not brought the message of Islam. Now so many people, they are accepting the message of Islam. Now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we are going to fast forward 6 years down the line. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he is giving da'wah. Now the Quraysh, when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he migrated from Makkah to Mukarramah to Madinatul Munawwara, they were very angered. They hadn't left Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the troubles continued. The Quraysh would come to Madinatul Munawwara and try to trouble the companions of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It was after the migration that the battle of Badr, the battle of Uhud, the battle of Khandaq, the battle of the Trench, all this took place after the migration to Madinatul Munawwara. And whatever the victory was, whatever the defeat was, this was all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 6 years down the line, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he sees a dream. And the dream of a Nabi is wahi. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he sees in his dream that he's going for Umrah with the companions, the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Now just imagine 6 years have passed. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is saying to the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum that I saw in my dream that we are going for Umrah. Imagine the anticipation of the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Imagine how excited they were that that very place that they were born, that very place that they had actually spent their childhood, they are going to go back to Makkatul Mukarramah. Now all the preparations were made, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he sets out to go to Makkatul Mukarramah with 1,500 Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum with him. Imagine starting off so many years ago with just a handful amount of Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, which probably didn't even exceed more than 100, 200, 300. Now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is going with 1,500 Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum towards Makkatul Mukarramah. Now the Quraysh, they found out that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is coming to Makkah. So they got together with the other tribes. And they said that if Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is to enter into Makkatul Mukarramah, then this will mean defeat for us. This is embarrassment for us. So they decided that we need to stop Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now the mount that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was traveling upon, it sat down whilst they were traveling. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam tried to get it up, but it wouldn't listen. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he managed to get it up, but again it sat down. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam through revelation, through wahi, that, O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you are not going to be able to do this umrah. But one thing that you should do, the least thing that you should do, is try to make sulah. You should try to make a treaty with them. Come and do sulah with the people of Makkatul Mukarramah. So this is what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did. And this is what Sulah Hudaybiyah is. Sulah Hudaybiyah is when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he made a treaty with the mushrikeen, with the people of Quraysh. They put a few conditions down. Number one, the Quraysh, they said that this year you are not going to do Umrah. You are going to return back to Madinatul Munawwara. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said that if this year we are going to return back to Madinatul Munawwara, This was 6 years after Hijrah. The 7th year after Hijrah, we are going to come back to Makkah al-Mukarramah and we are going to do Umrah. The second condition was that we are not going to fight against each other. The Muslims and the Mushrikeen are not going to wage war against each other for approximately 10 years. And other conditions were also put down. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum returned back to Madinatul Munawwara. Whilst they were returning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reveals the verses, Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina. That, O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina. That indeed we have granted you great open victory. Inna fatahna laka, we have given you open victory. Now Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was very, very taken back by the verse of the Quran. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given victory to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says that there is nothing better in the heavens and the earth than this verse of the Quran to me right now. Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina. Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was very confused. Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he says that, O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we are returning back to Madinatul Munawwara. We have just about made a treaty with the Mushrikeen. How is this a victory for us? How is this victory for the Muslimin? But Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu did not know that this sulh was going to pave the path towards the great liberation of Makkatul Mukarramah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he returns back to Madinatul Munawwara. Many years had passed. There were no fights between the Muslimin and the Mushrikeen. No fights whatsoever. There were two tribes. I think they were on the outskirts of Madinatul Munawwara, the Banu Bakr and the Banu Khuzaymah, if I can recall correctly. One of the tribes were the allies of the Muslims, which means that they were with the Muslims. The other were the allies with the Mushrikeen. Now they both had a war. The treaty, the condition was of the treaty that no matter who has a war, we don't get involved. If these are the allies of the Muslims, the Quraysh were told that you are not allowed to attack them. You are not allowed to have a fight with them. The Quraysh, they thought to themselves that, you know what, many years have passed. We will help our allies. We will defeat the allies of the Muslims. The Muslims won't even find out. Let us go and attack. So the Mushrikeen, the Quraysh, they went and attacked the allies of the Muslimin, and thereafter some of them came to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, informed them the Quraysh have done this. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said that there is no more sulh, the sulh is broken, there is no treaty between us, the Muslimin and the Mushrikeen. Now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said that now is the time for the real conquest. Abu Sufyan from the Quraysh, he came to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he said that, you know what, let's renew our treaty. They all knew that they won't be able to face Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They said that let's actually renew our treaty with you. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he refused and he said that we're not going to renew this treaty anymore. Now, few years had passed, and the first time when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam went for Umrah, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam went very openly. Now the second time Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he is going with a great army to perform Umrah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is heading towards Makkatul Mukarramah with such an army, dearest friends in Islam, which was undefeatable. Undeniably nobody could stand against the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whilst he's marching forward towards Makkatul Mukarramah, again Abu Sufyan, he comes. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he captures Abu Sufyan. He shows Abu Sufyan the army that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is taking towards Makkatul Mukarramah. And this was the way, and this was the path towards the conquest and the liberation of Makkatul Mukarramah. Now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whilst he is treading on this path to Makkatul Mukarramah, Hazrat Sa'ad radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he had the janda, he had the flag of Islam with him. He had the flag of the Muslimin. Now whilst he was going, he was so enraged by seeing the face of Abu Sufyan that he says that Al-Yawma Yawmul Malhama, that today is the day that we are going to take revenge. Today is the day we are going to show Quraysh who the Muslimin really are. Today is the day of vengeance. Today is the day of revenge. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he heard this remark of the Sahaba, he says that today is not the day of revenge. Today is not the day of vengeance. Despite Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam going through so much torture, despite Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam going through so much, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is going with a great army back to Makkatul Mukarramah, knowing that it is undefeatable, knowing that nobody can stand against this army. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam knew he could go straight into Makkatul Mukarramah, he can defeat the mushrikeen, he can be victorious. But Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he shows the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum the true message of Islam, which is full of mercy. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, Al-yawm yawmul marhama. Today is the day that we show the mushrikeen. Today is the day we show what Islam is really about. Today we are going to show the mercy of Islam. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he is entering into Makkatul Mukarramah as a liberator. Now just try to imagine, after years of torment, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is entering into Makkatul Mukarramah as a liberator. It comes in the books of hadith that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whilst he is on his mount, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, despite being so powerful, if it was us, we would have our chest out. Will be full of arrogance and pride. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is entering into Makkatul Mukarramah. His head is lowered, tears are flowing from his cheek, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is entering into Makkatul Mukarramah reciting, Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina, Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he enters into Makkatul Mukarramah. He declares and he makes an announcement that I have forgiven each and every person. A mushrika at the time, she later on became a sahabiya. She became one of those who had accepted Islam. She says that the night had come. She wanted to know what are the Muslimin actually doing. She thought that the Muslimin, they must be victorious, so they must be celebrating. So she says that I came to Masjid al-Haram, I came towards the Kaaba, and I saw that the Muslimin, the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, they are clenching onto the gilaf of the Kaaba, they are clenching onto the Kaaba, and they are making dua for the mushrikeen that, oh Allah, grant hidayat to the mushrikeen. Oh Allah, grant hidayat to the mushrikeen. And this really took her back, and this became the reason for her to accept Islam. Dearest friends in Islam, number one, that this message of Islam is full of mercy. And this is how Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, look at how he started his da'wah, and look at how he liberated Makkatul Mukarramah. But look at the tawadu, look at the humbleness of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, look at the heart of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He enters into Makkatul Mukarramah as a liberator, as a conqueror, and he forgives each and every person. Inshallah, in the next session, inshallah, we'll go actually into the tafsir of Surah Al-Fath, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. In the very first verse of Surah Al-Nasr, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ, when the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, and victory, وَالْفَتْحِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a great lesson that we take from the very first verse of Surah Al-Nasr is that, look, everything happens through the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter what we achieve in our life, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he achieved victory. Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam is told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ, when the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had come. Not that when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had conquered Makkatul Mukarramah, when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam became victorious, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, when the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came. What does this mean in our life? It means that no matter what we achieve, if it's our business, if it's our job, if it's passing our exams, no matter what it is, we have to firstly understand it is not my achievement, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has only come into existence because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it happen. No matter how successful we become, no matter how prosperous our business becomes, remember one thing, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we have made an effort. Yes, I have done this, I have done this. But firstly, it is the Nasr. It is the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which has made this happen. What does this bring into our life? This will bring in humbleness. This is something which Qarun did not have. What did Qarun say? قَالَ إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. That everything, Qarun was very, very rich, to such an extent that in order for the people to go into his treasures, a group of strong men had to come together and take the key of the treasures of Qarun in order for him to open the treasures. But look at what he said, قَالَ إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. Everything that I have got, it is because of me. It is because of my knowledge. It is because of my effort. He forgot Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did Allah ta'ala do? He destroyed Qarun. On the other hand, we have Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. He was much more powerful than Qarun. But what did he do? لِيَبْلُوَنِي أَأَشْكُرُ أَمْ أَكْفُرُ. He showed gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He humbled himself. He remembered that everything which I have, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants to see that do I show shukr, gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that I have got, or do I become from those people who neglect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam did shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And today in Quwwat Islam Masjid, we are talking with regards to Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. So respected friends in Islam, there are great lessons that we can take from Surah Nasr. Number one lesson from إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks with regards to the liberation of Makkatul Mukarramah, is that remember that every single thing in our life is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the tawfiq and the ability to practice upon whatever has been said. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqi sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.